think I was primed for some Bryan Singer because of the steady drumbeat of X-Men trailers and news, his odd name-dropping in the must-see documentary Milius, as well as the unpleasant sexual harassment allegations that have been in the news recently. So when I was flipping through the streaming options, I actually decided to go with a movie that previously held no interest for me. This was a very good movie in a lot of ways. It was fun to see so much of a movie built around the ticking time bomb concept. In fact, I'm actually going to borrow a little bit of that concept to improve this video. This is set to go off. Okay. We should have enough time. It also has the other movie device I love, which is the lay out the plan so we all know how it's supposed to happen and then show us the actual plan so we can enjoy how it goes wrong device. That's always a blast. No pun intended. Maybe a little. I think my favorite example of that is the Dirty Dozen, because, you know, it rhymes.
15.
Franco goes in where the others have been.
16.
We all come out like it's Halloween.
Yeah? How's that work out for you, Kojak? Showing us what's supposed to happen builds the tension. This movie does it like 3 times, and each time I love it. First scene, North African battle. Second scene, ticking time bomb. Third scene, bomb recovery, and we're off and running to a great movie. So the movie isn't a disaster because of all of that good stuff, but it does have Act 3 problems, which is the worst place to have problems in your movie, because it means you leave the experience on a down note. I've got 2 Act 3 problems and 1 overall problem with the movie. A pacing issue. The third act starts out with a bang, literally. It's kicked off with an explosion. The explosion that we've been waiting for since the second sequence of the movie. But then it moves into an area where the drama is defined by communications, by phone calls not going through. Now, we, the audience, already got our payoff. And we kind of know where the story's going to end up. It brings you in for a very slow landing for what had been a pretty harrowing ride up until that point. Point 2, Cruise and his collaborators have all been driven by their conscience to commit high treason against their country because of the increasingly horrific cost of the war. One can only imagine what a high-ranking Nazi or a regular German army official has witnessed to bring them to that realization. But we shouldn't have to imagine it, right? One person says they're fighting to save all of Europe from destruction. Another one says that they're fighting to save Western civilization itself. There's even another mention in passing of shutting down the concentration camps as soon as they get in charge. So they're clearly aware of the scale of the situation. We never get to see that. And when things start falling apart, what we mostly get from Cruise's character is that he misses his wife. We see the attack that wounds Cruise, but that's about all the war we see. During the only other war scene, we're hiding underground. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's a very well-crafted scene showing how Stauffenberg gets his inspiration. But it ends up hiding from the audience the motivating realities of the main characters. I'm not gonna lie though, I love this shot. Who knew Wagner could be so cinematic, right? But focusing again on the third act, you know, I get that when faced with certain death, I'd probably think of my wife too. And I guess my kids. But I feel like, well, I wanted him to be concerned with the bigger picture. Not seeing your wife is tough, but when your failure means the destruction of Europe, the end of Western civilization, and the industrialized murder of millions of people, well...
But it doesn't take much to see that the problems of 3 little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world.
So I feel like we're told one thing, but we're shown something entirely different, and that left me feeling like the things that he was caring about at the end just weren't that important. Relatively speaking. I don't want to sound callous. Sorry, wife. So my final gripe, the non-third act centric point, is a bit more ephemeral. I just feel like overall, the movie is far too fetishistic towards the iconography of the military and the officer class. I didn't like that we got so many clean, well-crafted shots of formations and uniforms and buildings at the time, when it was really the chaos and the horror and the destruction that was motivating all of these people. We never saw them see the horror. I feel like the beautiful chateaus and the disciplined soldiers interested Singer far more than the horrors that motivated the characters themselves. I know that this is the setting that this story took place. These people walked in these chateaus and they were these officers. But still, it left me feeling like the movie was entirely too clean. I want to be very clear, I'm not hating on this movie. It does a lot of things right, and it has an amazing cast, all of whom turn in fantastic performances. I loved Tom Wilkinson, as always. His practical, conflicted patriotism reminded me of Donald Sutherland in Citizen X, which is high praise indeed. And while the Hitler was meh, I guess, how do you do Hitler well? How do you say that's a really good Hitler? I loved the Himmler. That guy just made your skin crawl just with a glance. Oh, and it probably has the best, coolest, creepiest Heil Hitler ever put on film.
Heil Hitler!
Why wasn't this the movie poster? I would have seen that movie for sure in the theaters. But the movie unfortunately ended on its weakest point, so I recommend this movie. I think it's something you should see, but just make sure that you understand that it's going to slow down a little bit after the